Gavin Newsom cannot be the Democratic nominee for president, no matter what it takes. This is not purity politics. He wants to stop the billionaires tax in California. He is fundamentally opposed to the views of the majority of Democrats in this country. He cannot be the Democratic nominee, not to mention he is politically toxic. So this is what I'm talking about. You're going to see libs defending this and saying we need to unite behind the strongest candidate, blah, blah, blah. None of that. Ignore them. Their failures are what creates fascism in the first place, right? It's what bolsters their numbers. So ignore them. They couldn't even beat Donald Trump. Their analysis, their thoughts, their opinions are completely meaningless. Gavin Newsom cannot be the guy. Going from a president who's in the pockets of billionaires to another president who's in the pockets of billionaires while complaining about Trump the whole time is so hypocritical, it just won't even register. It'll be a total flop and just bolster the populist rights numbers again. It'll just be a vicious cycle. I mean, that's why the Democrats are so silent on most of Trump's corruption. It's because they want to do it too. And he's normalized it.
What's up, family? So we got to talk about this man, Gavin Newsom, real quick, because this whole situation just proves exactly what's been said for the longest. I feel like a lot of conservatives said it. I've been saying it about the Democratic Party lately. Bro's catching heat, not from the right, not from the conservatives, not from moderates, but he's catching it from the far left, the ultra progressive, Twitter finger, cancel happy crowd. And why? Because he went on Ben Shapiro's podcast, yes, Ben Shapiro, and said some stuff that didn't sound like full-blown far left talking points. And that right there tells you everything you need to know about the state of the Democrat Party right now. And you can't even sound halfway normal without your own people trying to chew you up. And I've been saying this lately, that the Democrat base is getting more and more radical by the day. And we're not even talking regular progressives anymore. We're talking about people who think being liberal means burning down anything that sounds like common sense. So now if you're a Democrat trying to run for president, you got two options. You either go full crazy to win the primary, or you try to fake like you're moderate and get exposed the second you open your mouth. And Gavin Newsom, he's trying to do both at the moment. The man's out here talking, or out here walking a tightrope, I should say, talking slick like a used car salesman, acting like he's far left when he's in California signing all the wild policies into law, but then hopping on a conservative's podcast like, well, actually, I support ICE, which is insane to me. And I wish he stopped the nonsense and the word solid, because California is literally a sanctuary state. There are whole cities in that state where law enforcement isn't even allowed to cooperate with federal immigration agents, like it's actually against local policy. And he's sitting here pretending, when we get to the clip, like that's not the case. Like, come on. So that's the game, though. He wants to sound like he's got some sense so he doesn't scare off swing voters in a general election. But at the same time, he knows the primary base is watching like hawks, ready to cancel him if he slips even a little off script. So what does he do? He lies straight to your face. He knows the facts. We know the facts. And he'll sit there and gaslight like, nah, we're not a sanctuary state. Nah, I support ICE. But bro, just say you don't stand on it. But he can't, because if he tells the truth, one side crucifies him. And if he lies, the other side drags him. And that's the trap the Democrats built for themselves. A party so radicalized that even their most polished candidates either self-destruct or become unrecognizable just to survive their own base. Check out the next clip.
I'll ask you this just generally about policy with regard to ICE, because obviously it's become incredibly contentious given what the federal government is doing in states like California. You know, it seems to me that there have been a number of deportations from red states, right, where there are governors and localities working with ICE. California is a sanctuary state, which makes it much more difficult for local law enforcement to hand over information to ICE about deportation status. What's the purpose of that? Wouldn't best policy, you're pragmatic, you talk about your pragmatism all the time, wouldn't best policy be to cooperate with ICE in the vast majority of cases? So instead of ICE going to, as you say, hospitals and churches to pick people up, they'd be going to jailhouses to pick people up.
That's exactly what they do in California. And we have over 10,000 that I've cooperated with since I've been governor of California. We work very directly with ICE as it relates to CDCR, state prison. California has cooperated with more ICE transfers probably than any other state in the country. And I vetoed multiple pieces of legislation that have come from my legislature to stop the ability for the state of California to do that. So when it comes to the issues of violent criminals, when it comes to felons, people that are being released from the largest state system in the United States of America, California cooperates with ICE.
Okay, but why is it then? What makes it a sanctuary state?
Well, the broader sanctuary policies that are established, and we had a policy that was established under Governor Brown, SB 54. You have city sanctuary policies that go back quite literally to the time Ronald Reagan was governor, as relates to some of the issues in Central America, sort of the origin stories. But the bottom line is relates to those policies, this notion that federal law should be enforced by federal law enforcement agencies, that we should not consign local law enforcement to federal responsibilities and prioritization.
Right, but shouldn't the state step in with localities and tell localities that they ought to cooperate better with ICE, thus to facilitate?
Well, I have sort of Rudy Giuliani's point of view, who made the point as an advocate for sanctuary policy when he was mayor of New York. He said it keeps people safer, healthier, and more educated. Safer in the context that it allows community members to be more likely to participate as witnesses of crime or victims of crime in going after the perpetrators, more likely to get an immunization shot if they're not worried about the nurse turning them over to ICE, more likely to go to school and get educated if they're not worried about the school crossing guard crossing them and ultimately turning them over to ICE. So it's the tool of pragmatism because of the complete abject failure of the federal government. A sanctuary policy is unnecessary if we had comprehensive immigration reform and we had a federal response that was adequate to the task. But in the absence of that, it's grown from the 70s and 80s and 90s, 2000s. And obviously I got here as governor and we had an established framework before I got here.
But it is true that sanctuary policy obviously has had a massive impact as a driver of tremendous number of illegal immigrants in the state of California.
I don't know about that. I mean, you see in a lot of states.
Exactly. So you hear it, you see it, and it's crystal clear what Gavin Newsom is doing. The man's playing his little political balancing act like he's walking a tightrope over a pitfall of sharks. And those sharks are his own base. And he's out here acting like, oh, well, these sanctuary city policies, they were already there when I got here. My hands are tied. Like, bro, what? Like, that's the weakest excuse in the game. You're the governor of California. You sign bills. You veto laws. And you set the tone. And now you're talking like some dude who just showed up to the party and didn't know what was going on. Like, that's not how this works. So if you really didn't agree with those policies, you could have reversed them, challenged them, pushed back, but you didn't because you support them. You always have. But now that you're trying to look, how can I put this? Palatable to the middle, you're trying to seem reasonable. And you're giving this half-baked, well, it's already in place nonsense. But bro, let's be honest. You out here trying to sell snake oil to people who are actually watching. And the thing is, it's not even the conservatives who are pressing him. It's his own team. The far left base is looking at him like, nah, we seen you trying to play both sides and we not with that. And see how he thought he could sneak in some moderate talking points. Try to sound like he respects law enforcement, especially ICE, but that ship sailed a long time ago. This is the same Gavin Newsom who just a couple years back was crying and screaming about ICE like the rest of the Democrat Party, talking about kids in cages and abolish ICE rhetoric. And you don't get to suddenly flip the script now and say, actually, I think ICE has a role, like people forgot. And that's the thing. The left doesn't care if your policies are radical or your policies are radical enough for them. If your words aren't radical, if your tone isn't properly outraged, if you don't sound like you're ready to burn the whole system down, then they don't want you. And they're turning on him now because he dared to speak like a grown adult for 2 minutes on Ben Shapiro's podcast. And that's all it took. And the base said, nope, he's done. They don't want nuance. They don't want leaders. They want activists with power. So the second Gavin tried to even appear like he wasn't fully brought into every last talking point, they hit the eject button. And that's why this man is in a political quicksand right now. You can't serve two masters. And he's obviously learning the hard way because he thinks he can serve two masters. But I want you guys to check out this next clip.
Sides were the same was a person personified, it would be Gavin Newsom, because this man will say and do anything to appease whoever his target audience is at that moment. If he's in a room full of leftists, he will cater to the leftists. If he's in a room full of Democrats, he will cater to the Democrats. If he's in a room full of Republicans, he will cater to the Republicans. Like, I don't agree with leftists on many things, but how they feel about Gavin Newsom, I do agree with them wholeheartedly. Gavin Newsom as president would be very dangerous. Did he do some good mocking of Trump and getting those congressional seats? Yes, but everything else that he's done and transpired in the past year, I really just don't fuck with. Like the fact that your son looked up to Charlie Kirk. Like, what the fuck is going on in your household? Who you say you are outdoors and who you are behind closed doors clearly is not the same person. And I just can't trust that. I can't fuck with that. Everything about Gavin Newsom is just, who's in front of me? I'm going to appease to you right now. And I'm saying all of this because Gavin Newsom went on Ben Shapiro's podcast and he walked back calling ICE a state-sponsored terrorism. And we all know how unpopular ICE is right now. So he could have made a statement, but instead he wanted to appease the Ben Shapiro and his crowd and said that. So to me, Gavin Newsom is a very dangerous politician because he is someone that will say anything and everything to get elected.
Hey, y'all, I think it's time a lot of y'all understand Gavin Newsom is not it. And I constantly see people loving him and going up for this man. And he continues to show his ass and show us he is not the guy. I don't care how many tweets y'all think come out where he's clapping back at Trump. The reality is he ain't even writing them tweets. It's a POC woman on his staff that is doing all the clapbacks, because we should know a white man can't clap back like that. That clearly was a woman. The clapbacks are too damn good, and it's a minority woman. He's not even doing it, but he continues to receive accolades and praise for this. And people keep wanting to say this man is the top Democrat for president. He is not the freaking guy. Another example of why he's not the guy. He brings Ben Shapiro on his podcast. Again, another conservative, racist, Trump-supporting white man he brings on his podcast. He had Charlie Kirk on his podcast before he passed, telling him how much his son loves him and admires him. He was given all the thoughts and prayers when Charlie passed. Now he's got Ben Shapiro on there. And I believe he had someone else on there that was conservative. I just can't come up with the name right now. This man continues to have these conservative people on his podcast, but then wants to act like he's for the people. He's full of shit. Then when Shapiro comes on and basically calls him out, because on his official X page, after Renee Good was unalived, he said it was state-sponsored terrorism. Calls him out on that because he's a conservative, of course, and doesn't believe that. And do you think Gavin has the guts or the cojones to actually say, I'm stand by what I said? No, sure does. Ben goes, you can't say that. You have to say they're obviously not terrorists, and it obviously wasn't state-sponsored terrorism. Gavin, yeah, I think that's fair. Sir, you can't stand on shit, but we supposed to believe you can be presidential and you constantly backpedaling, pee-popping? F out of here. Then he proceeds to try to talk about how he's cooperated with ICE more than any other state. That they have over 10,000 that I've cooperated with since I've been governor. So now he's trying to appeal to the other crowds, saying, I don't think ICE should be abolished. And I've cooperated with them. So are you trying to get the conservatives or are you trying to get the Democrats, sir? He's talking out of both sides of his fucking neck. And this is exactly why I will continue to say Gavin Newsom is not the guy. Democrats, figure it the fuck out, but you find somebody else in 2028 because it ain't him. And do not put us in another situation where people are sitting up here like, oh, I don't know what to do, and they don't want to like the candidate. Because honestly, we know Kamala she should have been the one, but y'all didn't put enough behind her. Y'all didn't do enough when she wasn't being highlighted enough as a VP. Do not put this man in the seat where we don't have no fucking choice. Because it ain't him. We're sick of white men. Tired of them because they all the fucking same. They talk big shit and act like they gonna stand on business. But when push comes to shove and another white man gets in their face, they literally kowtow, backpedal, and damn near pussy pop. He ain't got no damn balls. He ain't the one. This is not what we want. Democrats, find someone else and get this guy out of here.
Ben Shapiro saying that makes our politics worse. What makes our politics worse is that an ICE agent shot a woman that didn't need to be shot. And then the United States government called this woman with her black lab in the back seat of her car a terrorist. And Gavin Newsom plays patty cake with Ben Shapiro. Who is this for? Who is this for, Gavin? Are you trying to get, you always talk about, I have Republicans in my family. Are you trying to get those people to respect you? Because what you're doing is taking a grenade, and any chance that you had to really solidify the base and go, God, this guy's a fighter, because your press office is right. Your press office fights this administration tooth and nail, and those tweets are popular because people feel like, thank God somebody's fighting for us. Your press office didn't gaslight us the way Ben Shapiro and then your acquiescence to him just did. When your press office said that Kristi Noem is a domestic terrorist, she is. What ICE is doing in Minnesota is horrific, and it is state-sponsored terrorism. And start saying it. This isn't a left position. Everybody across the United States of America sees this. This is the don't tread on me. This is the shit that Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, and all these other pink arm, low T, right-wing media podcasters were screaming about. We can't have a large federal government that is eroding civil liberties in the street.
So yeah, you heard that right. And if you're paying attention, you're seeing a bigger picture here, because this is the exact problem the Democrats are walking straight into for 2028. They are setting themselves up for a trap they built with their own hands. See, the way their party is structured now, you have to come out the gate with the most extreme far left positions just to survive the primary. And I'm talking full abolish ICE, open borders, men and women sports, the whole nine. And that's the entry fee, right? But you can't even say, hey, maybe we need some border enforcement, or maybe there's a difference between legal immigration and chaos at the border, without getting chased off the stage by your own voters. And that's the energy they truly believe, that this far left fantasy world where ICE doesn't exist, where anyone can come into the country with no vetting, where facts don't matter, is going to be a winning strategy in a general election. But here's the thing. They're going to find out real quick that most Americans aren't living in that fantasy. And it's not just about immigration. The next topic in that Shapiro interview, which we'll get to in a second, proves that perfectly, the whole trans athletes and sports conversation. And again, Newsom does what they all do. He pretends like reality isn't real, and Ben Shapiro hits him with just basic facts like, hey, do you think it's fair for biological males to compete in women's sports? But don't take my word for it. Check it out.
Why does the parent not have an absolute moral ability to receive that information? And why is there not a requirement? There should be a requirement for teachers to turn over that information.
Health and safety. Health and safety is a requirement.
If a teacher truly believes that a parent is a threat to a child, they can report it to child services.
Yeah, so health and safety is still the standard. So you maintain that standard. That standard is the law.
That's a lot of wiggle room for a teacher to apply.
Well, it's also, but it's a lot of law in terms of the weight of that law and that responsibility to take care of it, make sure your kids are safe. But this idea that Trump says people are going to public schools and coming back, having surgeries and coming back the next day is absurd.
No, but there are certainly cases in which kids are being, quote unquote, socially transitioned at school without parents knowing about it. I know some of the parents to whom this has happened. I mean, this is the fundamental question that lies at the root of all of this is the question that you're not wanting to answer, which is whether boys can become girls.
Yeah, I think I'm for the grace of God. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the sympathy.
Yeah, for the grace of God. What God has to do with your demonic views, and now you don't want to acknowledge the demonic view that you have? Because instead of giving a straight answer that 95% of the people across the country would agree with, which is no, that's obviously not fair. Gavin folds. He can't even say it. He can't even say that it's not fair for biological males to compete in women's sports. He can't say it. He does this weird dance, twisting himself into knots, trying to avoid saying the truth out loud. And it's the same thing we've seen over and over again from the left, right? When you rewind a little bit,
boys can become girls.
Yeah, I think I'm for the grace of God. Yeah.
I mean,
he doesn't want to answer it. In other words, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I know that I said boys can become girls, they can become trans, but it's the same thing of him not even, like I said, owning up to him allowing trans athletes into, women's sports. They both obviously are 95% of the country would say no and no morally.
I appreciate the sympathy. I
No,
also feel terrible for listen, anybody who's suffering with any sort of
I mean, I think it's
mental or
been
physical
the
condition.
case
That's
for
terrible, but
generations, for time immemorial. God bless. I don't
why
know
is
how.
this a hard one? I just don't understand
Because
why.
I don't know why it's such a. Why is it such a? I'm curious. I understand the political potency of it.
It's not
but
just politically potent,
but it's just how it's so few. We're talking about so few people.
It's not about
that are struggling with gender identity issues. A lot of remarkable people, a lot of wildly successful people, and they've gone on their life, have incredible lives. I don't know. There's so much hate and bigotry, so much condemnation, so much judgment.
This is the part where I start to object.
Yeah.
Okay. The idea that
you may not be spewing it.
No.
Like some others. Trust me.
But the
See, he needs somebody like Sean Hannity or somebody to press him so he don't get off topic with his word solid. Because my thing was, I would continue to press that. You can say God bless, you can say all these things all you want, but obviously as a Christian, we know that we have to follow the law of the land. And if your dumbass is making a policy to the point where you having trans women or trans men or men turning into women as a trans to play in women's sports, how can you say just God blesses a very few people when you have people who are biologically males playing in women's sports and they're becoming to see themselves as a female when they were born as a man or a boy? So you don't need a PhD in biology to understand why it's not okay for a dude with testosterone and muscle mass to dominate in women's swimming or track or MMA. But this politician in particular, Gavin Newsom, since we talk about him, and these politicians, when it comes to the far left and these Democrats, can't say it because, again, the second they say something grounded in common sense, their base eats them alive. So instead, they gaslight, they deny, they change the subject, and they pretend it's some big moral battle, all while most of the country is looking at them like, yo, what are y'all even doing? It's not even a political thing at this point. It's just basic logic. But these Democrats, especially guys like Newsom, who are trying to have it both ways, they get exposed every time, and they try to fake moderation while still playing to the most radical part of their party. And trust me, voters are watching. So he can sit here and say God bless all he want and involve God, but God ain't in this, in the simple fact that he obviously advocated for this in the first place. Now, obviously, we know the answer of males are born males, and if they become trans or whatever the case may be, a male believes that they are a woman and they become a woman, they still shouldn't be in women's sports because there's a biological difference morally, right? So he obviously advocated for this, and now he's sitting here and don't even want to take accountability for it.
This is the business they're in.
There are lots of terrible people who say lots of terrible things, but
yes,
it is not an act of bigotry to say that a boy cannot become a girl, nor should my children be taught in K through 12 public schools that a boy can become a girl.
Yeah.
That is not an act of bigotry. That's an act of rationality and biological simplicity.
I respect your point of view, and
But
good people, good people disagree on this.
I know, but
in a lot of states, not just California. Well-established rules, by the way, that predate me. Again, this is not where I started. We're campaigning and advocating on these issues, as some suggest. And look, I'm with the Governor Spencer Cox, who said about many of these issues, never so much attention been placed on so few people.
But the problem is, I do think that on an electoral level, to go to the politics, it is a barrier to entry for a lot of people. When
I
you
agree
say,
with that.
When you say a boy can become a girl. And then just on a realistic.
And by the way, and I respect if that's your barrier to then listening to people on a myriad of other issues, so be it. It is what it is.
I find it strange that even if you wish to have a public policy that pursues something different, we cannot just admit that boys and girls are two different things and that a boy cannot become a girl. Why is this so difficult?
Yeah. I understand your point of view.
I appreciate
And,
it.
and I also respect Caitlyn Jenner. I do.
It's not
And
about respect for individuals.
well, no,
I mean, I
but
can tell you a story. This is there
no,
was a
I mean, I
situation
just
in
and
which
by the way, and
I was speaking at University
and
of
this
British
is a harder
Columbia.
thing for me too. As you may know, and you probably do. I have a trans godson, and it's there's a little more. I find the humanity. I find different aspects of this, different layers.
This goes back to my sort of truth.
But I know
trumps-
you're facts
Well,
over empathy.
I mean,
guy.
I'll
I get
give
it.
you.
The deflection is crazy. But this is where I draw the line, right? I'm just gonna keep it real with you. This whole issue about trans athletes and biological reality, all of that, that's not even political to me no more. It's a straight up sanity check. It's like this is the litmus test, right? I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent. If you can't tell the truth on this issue, you can't get my vote, right? Biologically, if you're a male, you're a male. If you're a female, you're a female. If you choose to be trans, that's your choice. But period. Like, I don't understand why you can't just admit the reality of it. But no debate. You won't get my vote. Because if you will lie to me about something this obvious, this simple, this is rooted in just everyday common sense, then what won't you lie to me about? Right? What else are you willing to bend, twist, or completely deny to make a political point or protect your image or play both sides of the fence? Like, seriously, we got folks out here bending reality like it's a TikTok filter. Everybody want to remix things to what they want to define it as instead of looking at the reality of it. And if you decide to go down that rabbit hole, at least we had the decency when it came to the Democratic Party at one point, or both parties, bipartisan wise, to come to the decency to understand the reality of things. And even if they decided to drift off, that is your choice, right? But just standing on the morality of things that biologically a male is a male and a female is a female. It's just common sense. So, look, you expect me to trust you on complex issues like the economy or national security when you can't even say what a woman is. Nah, I'm good on that. And I don't get how liberals, the everyday ones, not just the politicians, don't see that. Like, how do you not recognize that this is the line in the sand? And you'll scream all day about how dangerous Trump is, how he lies, how he breaks norms. Okay, cool. But explain to me how you can still run around and support politicians who look you dead in the eye and tell you something that's biologically impossible and just a matter of opinion. If they lied to you about that, what makes you think they won't lie to you about literally everything else? And this is where you got to ask yourself, do these people actually care about you? Or do they just care about power? And I'm not even saying Republicans are saints either. Let's be real. Most politicians on both sides are chasing power first. But I'm saying at some point, we as voters got to set a standard. And you got to show me you're at least willing to be honest with the basic truth about the basic truth. So, like, are you on full on political robot, or can you stand flat footed and be real about something so simple it shouldn't even be controversial? And Newsom, this dude is the definition of spineless. 1 minute he's talking about fairness with Charlie Kirk, trying to sound somewhat balanced, and the next time he's dodging the question like it's a landmine, rambling off into a word solid like he doesn't even speak English. And then he hits you with some vague spiritual nonsense like, well, I guess it's up to God when God ain't got nothing to do with this. And God isn't in this, especially the God that I know. But that's a different conversation. So what is he trying to shapeshift into whatever version of himself he thinks the crowd wants at the moment? No backbone, no principles, just like Kamala Harris. Say anything, be anybody, do whatever you got to do to climb the ladder. It's like politics in California has turned into a full-blown personality contest with no actual soul behind it. And I always say, if you can sit there and stand with the Democratic Party with this, I feel like you don't have no soul. You're soulless. That's just my opinion. We're having a conversation. Let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments below. And get this video a big thumbs up. But if he do even believe spiritually any type of God, especially the God that I know, do not like lukewarm people. So he needs to pick a side and stand on it. You either stand for something or fall for anything. And this dude is riding the fence so bad that this boy, or I should say he's acting in the mentality of a boy, and he is a grown ass man, obviously doesn't stand for nothing besides of what he is trying to do to manipulate. And these type of individuals are chameleons. They'll blend in whatever way they can and sell others out to get further, and to the point where they sell themselves out, because after a while, obviously, you can't fake the funk for too much longer, right? And at the end of the day, people will see through you and the mask will come off, and everything that seems the way it seems isn't what it seems. So, look, I know some of these folks are supposedly smart, well educated, polished, but at this point, I'm starting to think they're not as smart as we thought. They're just dumb. And they're sold out completely with no soul and just bought. Because I refuse to believe you can be a grown adult with functioning brain cells and still believe the nonsense that's coming out of their mouths on this issue. Like I said, this is the sanity check. And if you can't clear this bar, then don't expect me to trust a single word you say about crime, immigration, the economy, national security, foreign policy, none of it, because you're already showing me you're willing to play games with reality itself just to stay on script. And that's disqualifying to me. But catch you in the next one. Let the love supersede the hate. Spread the peace, love, and positivity. Let me know you guys' thoughts. As always, we just having a conversation. Peace.